Hello, hello. Welcome to Move Fast, Lift Heavy podcast. This is co-host Joe Roscoe coming to you live on our YouTube on Wednesday, the 26th, 2021, years after the year zero. It's a pleasure that you're listening. Thank you so much for joining us. If you haven't yet, please subscribe, rate the podcast, like it, swipe up, double tap. Wherever you're listening to this thing, just do all those things and we'd greatly appreciate it. Help us spread the word about Move Fast, Lift Heavy. If you haven't heard about our online training program yet, MFLH Train, you can check that out at movefastliftheavy.com or head on over to our Instagram at movefastlift.heavy, and you can see all the links and all that stuff. Get yourself a free t-shirt when you sign up. You can train just like Christian Harris, CrossFit Games athlete, founder of MFLH. Let's bring him on. I think it's that time already. I probably missed something, but we'll do it when Christian comes on. So please welcome to the podcast, standing at 6'1", 202 pounds, full bearded, frosted tipped hair, swagged out, chef daddy of them all, Christian Harris.
We're here.
What up?
We're back.
What up?
We're live. What up?
All right, that's what I'm talking about. That was better. All right. We'll keep working on it. But
all right.
Yo, what's up?
What's going on, my dude?
Well, I got my early morning suffering out of the way with the MFLH programming. Still getting better over here, but still suffering. But I feel like I don't start my day off officially unless my heart has been in my throat. So thanks to you and all of your evil programming, that's been going well.
How have you been liking those Tuesday turn-ups?
Oh wow, those 40-minute EMOMs, like you get through the fourth or fifth round, which is it's exactly 16 to 20 minutes. And you start to think to yourself, wow, I have to do this all over again. Like I still have 5 more rounds of this. Yeah. And then round 8 is when my head usually starts to tingle. I get these like tingles in my head cause I'm in Miami and I'm sweating buckets. So I'm probably at that point overheated and dehydrated and just about to die, but I made it.
You're making it through. And listen, with these 40 minutes EMOMs, obviously you're getting fit, but we're also accumulating some volume strategically over the course of 40 minutes. But also it's a mental challenge, right? So because of that long duration, you have to really find and dig down deep to finish out. So
yeah. I guess I'll say this live, but we were talking about some athletes and you'll recall this. And one particular athlete, I was like, that guy's legit. Like he should be really good, right? And you're like, yeah, but when things get tough, he's a you know what. And I started to think about that during my training sessions. And I'm like, you know what? No matter what, I never want Christian or anyone else to ever say that about me. And I know they wouldn't anyways, because on a comp floor or even in training when stuff's on the line, I'll die before I let someone say that. But yeah, mental toughness in that is crazy. Let's get into drop. Any drops coming up? Any apparel stuff happening? Wendler already released. Huge success. I didn't get anything. I showed up and everything was sold out. So I don't know who I got to talk to get the hookup, but
I got a guy. Up next, we have what do we have? We have our Thankful collection coming soon. We're gonna actually release something. I think on Monday, we're gonna do a Veterans Day drop just to kind of say thank you to the servicemen and women for all their hard work, allowing us our freedoms to get to do what we do on a daily basis. And cool. Then we're going to get into our Thankful drop. And then finally, we've talked about it before, but the Fitness and Fellowship. So that'll be here soon as well.
All right. Nice. We'll put that on the gram. So make sure you keep following us along at Move Fast Lift Heavy. Just hit 32,000 followers. Thanks to all the followers out there. Keep them coming. Yeah, let's get into our guest now. Why don't you do the intro, Mr. Christian?
All right, our next guest. I had the pleasure of officially meeting him at the CrossFit Games this year. He works for a company you might have heard of called Whoop. Probably can't miss him in person either. You said I weighed in at 6'1". I think Mike is about 6'7". I want to say.
Yeah. Whoa.
Yeah, I mean he's a tall statured gentleman. So we're gonna bring on our next guest, Mike Lombardi.
Mike, welcome to the pod.
Hey guys.
Mike, how tall are
you? 6'7".
Yeah, okay, I was on.
Yeah.
Now the rowing thing makes sense. It all makes sense now.
For sure.
Now I get it.
Yeah, I'm not just some dude who thought rowing was fun. Yeah. No.
Well, thanks. Yeah. Thanks for joining us, everyone that's listening. Mike, like Christian said, is a part of the Whoop team and has some things on the back end about their technological advancement. Right? Is that what one of your roles is at Whoop?
Everyone at Whoop wears a lot of hats, and having been there for I guess over 3 years now, which would make me a dinosaur in Whoop ages. It narrows and narrows and narrows, right, as the company gets bigger and everyone has closer to a singular focus, but still does a lot of things. So certainly in the early days, things where I'd say my fingerprints are more on, or something like the expanded journal entries, things that really tie back to understanding how your body works and more than, just your basic recovery, strain, sleep.
Sure. Cool. So Christian and I are entrepreneurs and big in business stuff, and have a lot of listeners that are the same. I'm curious, because you said you're a dinosaur because the company's young, but you've been there for 3 years. What was the company like when you got there 3 years ago in comparison to now? Because you all are an aggressive company that has grown very quickly. So yeah, I would love to just hear a little bit about that.
Absolutely. So when I started, my role was called Elite Performance Manager. And effectively what my role was to work with pro teams, college teams, military divisions, to help them understand their data and then action it. So we were having weekly or bi-weekly calls with these groups, and going through setting goals, and then working with them on their training plans, working with them on their itineraries. And that was a major part of the business, the sort of team aspect. And the direct to consumer was still sort of building. So it's probably about 40, 45 people when I joined. And from that point, I would say that was the base of what the current Whoop iteration is. So then over the course of the next 3 years, the head count just keeps growing and growing and growing. And you have these sort of wild moments that you kind of don't expect. It's funny, my wife was asking me about it the other night. She's like, what were kind of the moments you remember where Whoop just kind of took another step? One was Joe Rogan, the Sober October, and when he personally tweeted or put out on his own Instagram a Whoop strap, and I think that might have actually broke our site for when that went up. So that was
wow.
We were like, holy shit, this is insane.
Sorry to interrupt you, but I hear this story actually all the time, because there's another podcast, I guess I'll just plug it. It's called How I Built This, and it's all about entrepreneurs. And they over and over again, it's like, Oprah mentioned my thing, or this celebrity had my bag, and then they're like, yep, boom, that night my site was broken. So Joe Rogan, biggest podcaster on the planet, had that's crazy.
So I think that was one big jump. And then organically, we really started growing in the CrossFit community more than really any other community. It was one of those things where I actually think that I was one of the first CrossFit people on. I was training and working out of CrossFit Back Bay in Fenway. I think it's Invictus Fenway now. As I was going through business school, and AJ Baker, who's been at the company for like 5 years, he came over and kind of got the crew on. At that time, it was like a young Tola Moraquino and Kelsey Keel and that sort of crew training out of there. So that it was a cool introduction. And I remember going to Wadapalooza that year. I was speaking about rowing stuff, and the Whoop setup was literally like a pop-up tent with like 4 straps on it and a picnic table. That was like Whoop's first presence. So I think that would have been the 2017 or 2018 Wadapalooza, maybe 2018 Wadapalooza. To then being an official partner of CrossFit, a few years later. So that's wild. The other big jump points were actually Pga Moments, 2 separate ones. I think one where I think Rory McIlroy had just called off his engagement, and then he goes out and wins like 2 tournaments in a row, and he's got his Whoop strap on. And then Justin Thomas goes out, wins one, and everyone's like, okay, what are these guys wearing? I was at Pro Shop in like Chatham, Massachusetts, and some guys like, hey, is that thing Rory's wearing? And I wasn't even really aware of it yet. So like it started to catch fire, comes into golf. So we've got CrossFit and golf, and I would also say like the Tim Ferriss types of the world. Let's call them like biohackers. They're always trying to improve their life. They're just trying to maximize what they can do. Those are the people that have started bubbling to the top here. And then during the pandemic, when it really kicked up, we had the respiratory rate piece that we've always had, and we started to see some correlations between a spike in respiratory rate and COVID. Doesn't mean you had it, but started giving people a little bit of peace of mind. And with Nick Watney, the PGA golfer, right when they were starting the tour again to try and get some sports going, he tested negative, looked at his Whoop data. He said, I don't know, I think you should test me again. And then he tested positive. And Rory McIlroy said, I think this guy saved the tour. And that was just another inflection point of like, okay, this is where we are. And then, I think most of the team is actually built over 2020 to now.
Wow.
So the growth is pretty cool. And just recently we lit up a sign. I don't know who's familiar with Boston, but the Citgo sign is one of the most, recognizable in Boston. It's, kind of part of the skyline. And when you're at Fenway Park and looking over Fenway Park, you see that sign. And now there's a Whoop sign right next to it, because that's our new building. It's like 8 floors, like 1,000 people. So we're really excited to get in there.
Insane.
So that's where we've come, and it's everything has its own growing pains, but it's this sort of mentality of what do you need me to do? Like, sure, maybe my role is a little bit different. Like my role's changed 3 times in 3 years, and that's out of necessity. You do what you need to do because you understand that the mission is greater than yourself, and you just want to be a team player. So
nice.
That's really where we are, and I think that's what continues to make Whoop successful.
Something that stuck out was that as a person just from the outside seeing the marketing and campaigns and whatever, I thought from the jump that Whoop was a CrossFit based product. Like people that founded Whoop were CrossFitters. So you're saying that wasn't even the initial intention?
It's quite the opposite. It started. So our CEO Will Ahmed played squash at Harvard, and that's sort of the genesis of the sport. So like, if you want to say like the backgrounds of the people that started this company, they're either engineers or just brilliant. Our CTO does like powerlifting. Our VP of Performance Science, Kristen Holmes, is a field hockey coach. So like it's actually very different. It's a lot more like sort of team sport. So the first few people on Whoop were like LeBron James and Michael Phelps, and like that.
That's how I initially heard about it.
Yeah, that was kind of the root, is like, this is going to be, for all the pro teams are going to do it, pro leagues, pro athletes. And yeah, to some degree, like that worked. But then actually, once we kind of got them in major CrossFitters' hands, so like Katrin at like the peak of her powers, Brooke Wells a few years ago, I think Sam Dancer, Jared Stevens, like that was kind of I think we and Noble kind of had a semi-overlapping crew at the time, both Boston companies. But once people saw that, it was like, damn, okay, I'm going to do this. And I think this is something that people have probably come to realize about the CrossFit community, is like they're invested and they think if something's going to make them better, like let's give it a shot, whether that's knee sleeves or sneakers or wrist wraps or whatever the hell it is. Like it's just the
Yeah, it's
community.
like
They care.
when you see somebody walking down the street in a pair of Nanos or a pair of Metcons or something like that, and it's like, oh, this person does CrossFit. It's like the same thing with a Whoop strap now. Like you kind of identify and you can relate to that person that you see wearing the Whoop strap. That there's somebody that cares about their lifestyle and they're kind of invested in that. So it's definitely cool to see that it's become a very lifestyle driven accessory piece.
Yeah.
I would say
Real
CrossFitters
quick.
understand it the best, to be fair. Maybe because they've been in it the longest, but they're always measuring stuff anyway. If you're, really into your nutrition, you're probably measuring your food, weighing food, what kind of times you want to hit, what kind of weight you want to move. It's just another thing. So.
Yeah. Real quick, everyone that's watching on YouTube, I can see y'all. Feel free to put in any comments, questions for Mike about him personally, Whoop, or rowing technique. You coach Olympic rowing? What's you and your wife?
I did for a few years.
Let's do this, Mike. Tell us that background, but then give us like your top 3 either things that people do as like a faulty movement or vice versa, 3 things you need to be doing to improve your rowing, however you want to take that. But give us that background again about you and your wife. Sorry for interrupting.
Yeah, no. So growing up, I didn't hear about rowing until high school. So I ended up going to a school in Philadelphia that in Philadelphia is, I would say, one of the main rowing areas of the city. It's probably like Philly, Boston, and then maybe a little bit in Florida, and then northern Southern California. Not so much in the middle of the country. So that led me to I played basketball and then rowed as well. So then rowing is kind of what I took to college. I met my wife there. We both went to Princeton, and then after that point, she wanted to continue kind of going for the national team, going for the Olympics, because it was when we graduated in 2010, so it's only 2 more years until the London Olympics. So it's like, all right, 2 years, like 4 years is a pretty long time if you're gonna graduate like that. That's a tough graduation to Olympics. So we stayed in Princeton, and I coached at Princeton for a few years and started helping her out a little bit because we sort of rode on the same body of water. And then after that cycle, she did go to the London Olympics. She came in 4th place by this much. She said, I got to go for another one. And she got hurt. Didn't really know what was going on. Couldn't sit down for like 9 months. She like couldn't sit comfortably. And then we actually this is how we got into CrossFit. We went to California and met Kelly Starrett and Brian McKenzie. And basically in 2 weeks, she was pain-free and hasn't been hurt again. So basically muscles not firing, moving incorrectly from the same repetitive motion. Yeah, like that's pretty common. So that second cycle, I so from like 13 to 16, I coached her, a couple other athletes outside of the training center. So rowing works if you want to make certain boats, you're in a training camp, and other boats are sort of like at large. You go to a trials event, and then you can just kind of qualify. So that's kind of what we did. And out of that, we developed this sort of program of, less volume, higher quality, higher intensity, something hard every day. And that could be something in the weight room with a big focus on strength. So completely changed our, how we do things. And that's kind of where we are. So to answer your question on what are the 3 things that people should work on or think about, Sarah's my wife. We actually made a video with Reebok a few years ago. I think it's called like the Science of Rowing. It has like 5 tips in there, so I like that's a really easy digestible one. Several things. Man, where to start? Where do you want me to start? Where do you think your rowing's bad, or could be improved? Not bad.
Christian, you're the professional athlete. You answer that.
For me personally, I tend to open up a little early.
Yeah.
So from the catch position, I tend to like slide my torso back too soon.
Mm-hmm.
I know that's a pretty big fault of mine.
Okay.
I know that's going to take like a lot of repetition to out train that. It's not terrible, but
yeah, no,
it's something I
think that's probably a pretty common one. The misconception that people have about rowing is that it should feel heavy, and it shouldn't. Like the same way we move a deadlift, right? I think people probably equate a deadlift or a clean similarly to the rowing stroke, where it's heavy, you want to feel the load. Where rowing, you really just want to get the flywheel up and running and just kind of tap it along once you've hit that rhythm. I would say it's closer to a sumo deadlift high pull than it is to a deadlift or a clean, where there's a point where it sort of like reaches a peak speed and it just kind of floats up. That's kind of the rowing stroke. So big things set up. When you're setting your foot height, you should probably have your big toe in solid contact with that thick part of the foot plate. So if you're like way above that and your toes just like way up, you're probably putting yourself in a position where you can't hit an optimal hinge, which to some degree is why some people open up early, is because they can never actually get in the right position. So set yourself up.
So I always put my ball of my foot on that hard part. So I need to lower a little bit to get my big toe to it.
You could, yeah. It's an in between, and obviously it's a flexibility thing. So like if you have good ankle mobility and like what are your dimensions? Like if you have long legs, long torso, like it's going to be slightly different, but that's just a good rule of thumb.
Got it.
Big
Noted.
toes certainly in contact with that foot plate. If
you're watching on YouTube, I just put in our comments section that direct link to that video that Mike did for Reebok. So don't click on it yet. Obviously, keep listening to our chat here with Mike, but know that rowing tutorial video that they put together is in our comment section of this video. So check that out.
The thing you talked about, Christian, the opening. So there's something there's a screen that literally nobody uses besides maybe rowers, and I don't think even enough rowers use it. It's a power curve screen. So if you're kind of going through, or if you're just on the C2 monitor, just hit the second hash mark down on the right side. It will take the bottom half of your screen and it will turn it into a power curve. And effectively what it's showing you is, where are you applying force throughout the stroke? And ideally, in that sort of quadrant, we're just looking for like a nice smooth bell curve. So we want to see an acceleration that hits a peak and then it doesn't like completely drop off, or there's not a secondary pull with the arms. It's a simple, okay, we've hit our peak acceleration and then we've completed the stroke. So it's really a squeeze and just kind of let the handle come to you, as opposed to pulling. Like pulling is the wrong way. It's a push. Rowing is a pushing movement. It's not a pulling movement. So you could do a lot of legs only. Yeah.
Pushing with the feet is what you're referring to, right?
Yeah, it's a push and hang. Yeah, it's a push and hang with it from a hinge position. So, the points of performance are very similar to this is where it's you can use weightlifting as a comparison for points of performance, but not for feel. So like, when you change direction out of the catch, hips should move, handle should move, shoulders move all at the same speed. But it shouldn't feel heavy. You shouldn't be grabbing. If anything, you have the load, and you're not like super scaps retracted. Like there's an interesting looseness. Like there's still some athleticism required with the change of direction in the rowing stroke. So
this is fascinating, Christian. Is your mind? Are you just like? Is your mind blowing up right now?
I'm definitely soaking this up right now. So
this is great. I was not expecting to talk to one of the prominent team members of Whoop and get a huge ass rowing lesson on this podcast. It's amazing.
Yeah, it's I could go on and on. about it. You're right. It is about repetition, but if you got to be doing the right repetition. So like, the other thing I would say that just let's put this as the third piece is people stop at the wrong place in a stroke. You should think about it completing one stroke at a time. So when you are, taking the stroke at the catch, you push the finish position with your legs flat, the handle at your body, you sitting up off the seat, and your body probably 25ish degrees open from straight up and down. Like that's the point where you breathe. Okay, like that's like you don't like do the old pull in and then let the hands come out and drop. It's like complete this stroke and then you go get another stroke. The hands lead out, the body hinges over, and then the legs release. So when I see the old hands in and then just like drop the hands, that's the thing that makes me want to just be like, take a lap. So and you'll see it in the power curve. Like it doesn't make sense, right? And there's no other movement in your life that you do that. You don't. I'm going to go back to the deadlift. You don't do a deadlift, pull it up to the top, stand it up, and then be like, no, I'm going to go back to middle of my legs, middle of my quad, and then I'm going to rest there, and then I'm going to go do another deadlift, right? It's just it doesn't make any sense. So those are pretty basic.
I like that
ones.
analogy.
I don't know how people don't really think about it that way. Like I guess because it's a little bit less every time, but like that's how people end up with like little microfractures and back issues because do it over and over. Yeah, like you wouldn't do it for a 1RM deadlift, so why would you do it 1,000 times on the rowing machine?
Wow.
I got one more before we move on from rowing.
Yeah.
What about the person that says, what should my damper be at?
Okay. So this is where you can't use a number. You can't use the numbers on the side. You have to use the computer. So do you guys
drag factor?
Yeah. Do you guys set your drag factor?
Yeah.
Not every time I get on, but
no. Yeah.
If I'm doing like an open workout or quarterfinals workout or something like that, I try to make sure all those things are dialed in.
So a rule of thumb.
When you asked and I said that meant one time like 5 years ago, and then I thought like, oh, that's it, like I'm good to go, like that's
I've done it. Yeah, I've arrived. I'm a rower now. So every machine is different in every gym, right? They're all different depending on how new they are, what the upkeep is. I went to a wedding in Ireland like 4 years ago, and they had a rowing machine in the hotel gym. I had to put it all the way up to 10, and still the drag factor was like 75. So more or less the machine was like unrowable. So the rule of thumb for rowing in general, and this is it's probably true with moving any sort of load, is like you can only push as hard as your core is strong enough to withstand, right? So yeah, you could put a really heavy drag on, but what's going to happen is you're going to push your legs, your hips are going to move, and you're just basically going to like jolt your body, and then you're going to put all this loading on your rib cage, and it's going to be shitty, and it's going to be less powerful, and eventually you're going to hurt yourself. So what we generally tell people is for a man between 120 and 130 on the drag factor. So if you're going into the computer, more options, display drag factor. All you got to do is take like 5 or 6 strokes. Just normally a number is going to populate. If it's below 120, kick it up a little bit. If it's too high, kick it back down. But you're going to find that number where you're like, this is right. So 120 to 130. And for women, probably like 105 to 115, maybe 120. If you're doing something that's repetitive, like let's say some rounds for time, you probably want something where you can kind of clip it along. Let's say that you got to do 40 cals for time or something. You could probably put it a little bit heavier if you know that you can like sort of sustain it. The thing I always come back to is that the world record in rowing is for 2,000 meters on the rowing machine is 536 and change. I think it's like 536.2, 536.4. That's like a 123, 124 split for 2,000 meters. And this dude did it. Yeah. So this guy did it at a 120 drag factor. So like, you don't, to say that you need to go fast or you need a heavy drag to go fast, you don't. Generally what's going to happen is most people don't have the muscular endurance. They're going to feel great in that first round. And they're going to be like, man, my legs are really tired. And it's like, just get a little more proficient with the movement. and then you can see where you go. But you really don't need to go that heavy.
All right.
That's what I would say. So anybody rowing on 10, I will tell you without a shadow of a doubt, you're doing it wrong.
There you have it, folks. Some nuggets right there. Some gold nuggets from the man Mike.
From row fishing. Is that that spelling's correct, right?
That is
Can you see that?
correct. Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah.
All right.
That was something
So
we
put
came up
that-
with, however old we were. Yeah, and it's just stuck.
Oh, got you. Yeah, if you're watching on YouTube again, you can see that link in the description of this episode. And if you're listening on a podcast platform, I'll make sure that I also put that link for Row Efficient. You can check out more things that Mike has to say as far as all the.
Honestly,
all the
it's more my wife stuff. You know, like I'm more. I like to play the coach role. You know, I'm a capable athlete, but I get way more out of the programming and helping people improve as opposed to like I stay fit and I'm healthy and that's great. But you know, like it's really about helping other people, you know, reach a level or find something about themselves that they didn't know. So,
well,
awesome.
We might have to like bring you back on for part 2 and just keep talking about rowing because
we can talk rowing whenever you guys want. You send me videos. I'll do a coach's eye for you. You can put that up on the site, no problem.
Okay, nice.
Yeah,
maybe get a rowing track, Christian. Put a rowing track on MFLH train.
Careful now.
I know. I
don't think I like how that one goes.
we can dedicate a 3-month cycle for the AM session to be rowing only, or maybe like 3 times a week or something.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think going from nothing to that many times per week, like, is probably a lot. I think if you pepper it in 2-3 times with cycling and running, you know, like it's a good combination. And then you could build the volume up. It's like anything, you need to earn your volume. Like cycling is probably the lowest skill in terms of the ability to just kind of hop on and do it. I think running and rowing, particularly as there is a bit more wear and tear on your body, it is one of those things you need to accumulate and sort of earn your volume before you just say, yeah, I'm going to go run 10 miles.
Right. I like that. Earn your volume.
Earn it. Christian, I'm sure you always get a lot of people reaching out to you about wanting more, or maybe your members at the gym and stuff like that. So I know as a coach, we're always trying to combat the civilians of the world. I'll say just coming at you saying, "Oh, I want to do 3 workouts a day," and blah blah blah.
Yeah, like to folks like that, I always say, be the best class athlete first before you start adding and all this other volume and wanting to compete and do all this other stuff. So
I think that's so true.
On your class.
Yeah. I used to not be like an open gymmer, but like I would always like do a good amount of extra work. And sometimes I would not do the class workout. Like before, right when I started at Whoop, I might just like come in at like the 6 a.m. and just kind of like tuck in the corner and do whatever was in my head. But once I the best I actually ever got at CrossFit was when I was just taking class every day. And if I did 1 or 2 extra things, like after that was fine. But yeah, like there's no substitute for getting in class and can the people can I add more weight? Like just win the class first and then we can talk about it. Right. So I think that's great advice.
Cool.
Nice.
I think people undervalue as well, just like the difference that it makes having a set of eyes on you.
Yeah.
When you're an open gym athlete, right, you're kind of training on your own all the time. So it's hard to really know if you're making progress. So even if you're somebody that is an open gym athlete, I always suggest taking a class every now and again just to get some eyes on you, brush things up, clean it up a little bit.
Yeah. You can always be a little better.
So let's take a U-turn, go back to Whoop. There's a topic of conversation that I wanted to bring up. Christian, myself, with a few other ventures, we start small and then just been chipping away like a typical small business model. With Whoop, you bring on someone like LeBron, or you're shelling out money. You're getting investments. You're yada yada yada. And maybe Mike, you can also draw to your experience with Rofficient. How is that different, or what are the advantages, pros, cons? What's that experience been like to be a part of something that's been so aggressive, I'll say, in growth and in advertising and in getting sponsored athletes, so on and so forth?
I think it's really in the mentality of your internal team, and that really charts the course for anything. Um, we tend to describe Whoop employees as high intensity with high humility. So everybody's always wants to push, 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 but it's also very okay with being like, no, this person has a better idea, or that's wrong. Like very open to feedback, and again, it's that team mentality. So, um, I think with Whoop and with anything, like there you need a little bit of luck. You could have a lot of the secret sauce, like that's the key, right? You have to have a great product. Like MFLH is an outstanding product. Whoop's a great product. I know Rofficient's a great product. Like these, like you can't sell bullshit eventually. Like people catch on. Once you have that, then it is about doing some market research. Who is naturally drawn to what you're doing? So Rofficient actually started as what we saw was we thought that CrossFit was gonna be like, hey, we want some rowing help. And what ended up being is this is like for like masters and collegiate and junior rowers, or people that are training outside the system that like need guidance. Like it's a rowing program for rowers. Like you kind of don't know. The same thing with like Whoop and CrossFit. We were like, hey, this probably isn't going to hit. And this is it's funny. I had this conversation with AJ Baker, who was going door to door. I think he had 50 straps, and he's going door to door trying to get CrossFits to take Whoop straps in 2017. So like then all of a sudden it hits, and you're like, wow, okay, that's something. So I think it's a little bit of a move fast, fail fast change, and like learn and change. Like I think that's what I've seen with Whoop a lot, especially in the early days. Nowadays, everything's much more thought out as the team is bigger, and investments mean more, and things have to hit better. But there requires a certain combination of vision and creativity, but also like boots on the ground to get it done. So it's sort of like I'll talk about like Whoop Live for like in the sense of like Whoop stuff. When that came out, I think even internally we thought this is pretty cool. Where's it going to go? And our CMO had always had the vision like we will be in broadcast. That's where we're gonna like this is just gonna be the new normal. And a year and a half, 2 years later, it's becoming a reality, right? We're in the CrossFit Games, we're in the PGA, we'll be in other sport, we're in NASCAR. Like, okay, cool. Like that's really cool.
Sorry to interrupt you. For everyone listening, you're talking about on the screen, you guys displaying what the heart rate is while they're
the metrics,
performing.
Yeah.
Correct?
So live heart rate. So we CrossFit Games.
So what we saw in the CrossFit Games, for all of you that watch it, that same thing's happening in NASCAR. When someone's driving, they'll pull up the Whoop data while they're in the car and blah. Yeah.
Yeah. So PGA was the first one. CrossFit was the second, and NASCAR actually we've done live strain accumulation as well. So it's heart rate and strain, and that's something like that's the new frontier. So how can we start pushing that? With the Tour de France, we didn't have the integration in the sense of the live heart rate, but we did do pieces with like the broadcast team with like, this is the rider's recovery, strain, and sleep from yesterday. Like, no wonder he performed this way, or, positively or negatively. So just making it like normalized. I think that's for a product like Whoop that is a pretty heady value proposition. And if you want to go deep into it, you can go in a rabbit hole of how deep do you want to go and learn about yourself. That just takes time. So it's a combination of time, hard work, and that sort of overarching vision. I think that leads anything. And like the thing I talk about with the team is, like, are you still like waking up and like passionate about it every day? And talking to Christian and Joe, I can tell as well. Like, I know you guys are passionate about this stuff. Like, so if at any point, like, everybody's gonna have downs, like down periods, like, I don't know. But like if for like somebody told me, I think it was like a 90-day rule. Like if you go like 90 days and you don't find any like enjoyment or passion in those 90 days, it's done. You should stop doing it. And I think that's a pretty good rule. Like, 3 months is a good run of time to have no good days. So
I agree.
you're giving it a real try, and if you do, then great, and build on that success. But never let the highs get too high, the lows get too low, but do celebrate the wins. And we've certainly done that at Whoop, along the way of, hey, like the Rogan moment. This is really cool. We haven't arrived yet. So it's always I think it's kind of that mentality of even great coaches. They win a championship and they say, cool, what do we got to do next year to repeat? Like, it's a quick, this was what I was supposed to do. Now let me go get the next thing. So, but celebrating a little more than that, than like a Belichick or a Popovich. We'll take like a day to celebrate. Yeah.
Win or lose, you really can't tell whether they won or lost or not, because they're stone faced the entire time.
Yeah. So I know that was like so much just kind of all over the place, but having been able to see it from a lot of different places, I think it's cool, and you never want to alienate who's drawn to you. Like, you got to remember that. Yeah. Like, you don't want to bite the hand that feeds.
Yeah.
Great advice.
I mean, what's going on? You got a lightning storm over there, Christian? What's going on?
Someone's blowing up.
All right, Christian, the man of the hour. One thing that really stood out, and it's a recurring theme that I hear from people, and I'm glad you brought it up, is just like the very beginning. I forget the guy's name. You said he went to a CrossFit gym or a few, trying to pass
AJ.
out 50. AJ,
shout out to AJ Baker.
There you go. AJ Baker, just put pounding the pavement, as they say, passing out all these Whoop straps, just trying to make it happen. But no one really sees that or knows that. All they see or know is once Rogan had the strap, or you've quote unquote made it in the public's eye. But what they don't realize is you got boots on the floor in the very beginning, just trying to make it happen. And I think that's what deters people so much from starting their own ventures or their own dreams, is because they look at products or businesses like Whoop and only see the middle to the later rounds of where they're at as a business, as opposed to, hey, it didn't just happen. Like, AJ was freaking begging people to take these things, like now they are who they are. But all that to say, you got to put that in perspective.
They are who we thought they were.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, everything you shared was super valuable. So I appreciate that. Christian, I don't want to put you on the spot. Do you know what's your Whoop code? Do you know what your Whoop code is?
I could pull it up right now.
Yeah,
for people to join my group.
Yeah, the group, or the discount code for getting their own Whoop strap. Because I enjoy when I talk to Christian about training, and him telling me like his strain, and watching him at Spartan games, and him showing like what his results were on his Whoop after like the half marathon and all that stuff.
Man, I think that was a record day for me.
Basically, you looked at it and you thought maybe he wasn't still living, like you thought maybe he was dead or something.
So my link to sign up for Whoop is join.whoop.com/I am Chris Harris.
Okay. Cool. We'll put that in the comments of the episode as well. Christian, what's your favorite thing about Whoop, your Whoop strap?
I like seeing the strain score, seeing how high I can get it. I usually basically try to keep it consistent on a daily basis. I try to go 16 plus on the daily. And I know if I did not, I'm pretty feeling like a piece of shit that day.
and then how about your code? Do you know your code?
To get into the group?
No, for don't you have a discount code, like whatever, Christian 20 or Christian 10?
It's automatically applied with the link.
Boom. Okay, there you go.
So if you hit the link, it's automatically applied.
Amazing. My last question for Mike before I turn it over to you, Christian, is same question as the rowing one. What do you know that people that have their own Whoop don't take full advantage of? Because there's so many amazing features to it, but some people, they don't do their due diligence to know what it all is capable of doing. So tell us a little bit about that.
I think that the journal is underutilized. I think people are excited about it in the beginning, and then they stop answering the questions, and then they stop figuring out things about themselves. So it's one of those things you have to kind of update frequently. If something turns out to be a good behavior or positive for you, then it just becomes the default, and you can pull that out. You know that like you always sleep with an eye mask or something. Go try another little micro experiment. And don't do 10 at once. Like simple is best. Go drink some more water. Like I think that those, like, everyone's trying to do all this crazy shit. Like I had, do hot and cold therapy. It's like what are you eating? When are you eating it? How much water are you drinking? Like what's the temperature of your room? Like the most basic things. Like deal with that first, and then you could once you nailed that, start going crazy. In terms of strain, I think Christian talking about he wants to get to 16, like that's from years of knowing his own body. What a strain looks like for Christian obviously has a certain amount of output for the day, like that, between coaching and entrepreneurship and family and all that stuff. It all adds up, and he knows what that picture. So it doesn't mean if you're listening, you should go try and get a 16 strain. I almost never have a 16 strain, and that's fine for me. I look at strain as a byproduct of whatever is happening. So I'm also not a professional athlete, but I do think it's important for people that are just kind of using it, to think about it in terms of, wow, that was way harder than I thought it was going to be. Like in terms of just like a day. So when you think it's like a recovery day, make sure that like your strain actually indicates that was a recovery day. It doesn't mean like, let me be on my feet for 12 hours and walk around and do some errands and da da da. It's like, then you end up with a 14 strain on an off day. And it's like, well, what did you just do? That wasn't a recovery day at all. If you're a pro athlete.
Yeah, it definitely holds you accountable for that in that regard for sure.
So understanding that, and then I would also tell people to just kind of deep dive your sleep a little bit. So sleep performance is the most basic level of, am I getting enough sleep? Once you're getting like 85% and above, good job, like consistently. Go ahead, tap into the sleep screen and see how much REM and slow wave sleep you're getting, as well as your sleep efficiency. So sleep efficiency is once you go to sleep, how well are you staying asleep? Or are you waking up a bunch of times throughout the night? So that's a percentage. So, like let's have that as high as possible. Definitely over 90%. If you can get it up to 95+%, you're really nailing a lot of things. And then look at REM, how much REM sleep you're getting and how much slow wave sleep you're getting. And you're going to have to do a quick little calculation, as we don't present it as a percentage of your total night of sleep. But so if you see that you got 8 hours of sleep and you got 3 hours of REM and 2 hours of slow wave sleep, do the quick 5/8 of my night was spent in, the sort of restorative sleep. That's outstanding. Really what the number you should be shooting for is like 45 to 50% of your night spent in a combination of slow wave and REM. And if you're not hitting that, that's where you start to tinker.
Cool. Okay, very helpful.
I had a pretty interesting stat from my journal.
Yeah.
After reporting dairy 37 times in the past 90 days, your sleep performance typically increased by 5%.
Really?
I thought that was a very interesting stat because I try to stay away from dairy as much as possible. And I just found that to be very interesting.
Was the dairy always ice cream?
It's either like either ice cream or like I use this tzatziki sauce.
Okay.
So I guess like yogurt based product. Yeah.
Right. It's a good thing to know.
Yeah.
Things you might not necessarily
It's
expect.
helping me sleep.
Yeah. And for some
Yes.
people it might not be that way.
Mike, I have one more thing before
Yeah.
we wrap this up. A question that I get a lot of basically has to do with HRV, why you should be looking at it, how to measure it, quote unquote, what's a good HRV score?
Got it.
You know, some of the things that I know about HRV is that a good score is dependent on you personally, right? So you're not going to measure your score against anyone else's. And it's also going to tell you, it's like the biggest indicator of how well recovered you are. Am I right with that?
Yeah.
Somewhat?
In the most basic terms.
Sure.
Yeah. So heart rate variability is basically a number that we get as we're measuring your autonomic nervous system, which is built of two branches, sympathetic and parasympathetic. So sympathetic speeds you up, parasympathetic slows you down. And the higher that number is relative to your baseline. So like you said, the important thing is you're measuring yourself versus your own baseline, not you versus Christian or Mike or anybody else. So you're improving against your own numbers. And the higher your number, which we measure in milliseconds, is above your baseline, the more receptive your heart is to receive these signals either from the sympathetic or parasympathetic branches to either speed up or slow down. So it's, if you want to call that readiness, it's how ready your body is to handle any stimulus and respond quickly. The lower that number, you're going to feel a little sluggish, like the reaction time might not be as high, like any of that kind of stuff, or your muscles aren't going to fire the same. So like, yes, that number is kind of telling you how, the check engine light or the gas gauge a little bit. It doesn't mean you can't do things on days with lower heart rate variability, but it's probably going to be harder. And yeah, always measure you versus yourself.
Cool.
In everything
Thank you.
in life, right? You versus you.
Yeah. I guess unless you have a business that you need to keep afloat.
Yeah, sure. You can say that again. Christian, do you want to put Mike on the hot seat or what do you think?
Yeah, it's time.
All right, Mike, get nervous, okay? You're going
Sure.
on the hot seat.
Love it.
All right, we've got about 5 or 6 questions, basically short answer form. First thing that comes to your head with each of these. You ready to rock?
Okay. Yeah.
All right. Would you rather move fast or lift heavy?
Move fast.
Coffee or pre-workout?
Coffee.
Current favorite sneaker. Does not have to be a workout shoe.
Oh, current. Do I have to own it? I have to own it, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I'll just stick with my off-white Blazers. Reapers.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
My man. Favorite brunch food?
Chicken waffles.
Oh, I like it. If you had to pick one exercise for the rest of your life,
Or one movement.
one movement.
Oh man. Maybe a power clean.
Solid choice. Give us an idea of what your current playlist looks like.
Whatever's on Spotify. It depends what I'm doing. It's usually be like, okay, do I want some hip hop? Let me just find something. How intense do I feel like being? I don't know. I've been going through a rotation of Kanye, Chance the Rapper, and then whatever the sort of like beast mode playlists are on when I'm just like doing some like longer cardio, like those imams that you were talking about at the beginning. Just kind of like, I need something in the background. Just kind of like I hear it, but I'm not really listening.
Got it. That's all I got for you.
Mike, good job.
You survived.
The power clean answer. I'm about that. I'm about it.
Yeah, it's like my default. It's like,
I have one for
short
both
on
of you
time.
guys.
Yeah.
Power or squat clean?
No, power always.
Power clean.
Squat all day.
No way. I don't want to grind out of the bottom there.
You're a squatty. You're a good squat guy. I mean, you know how tall I am.
Yeah.
Yeah.
True.
Christian, you should have. For me,
I respect it.
5 foot nothing. Maybe I would say squat clean, but for Mike, that was a no-brainer. You know, it was a no-brainer.
Yeah, that's a layup. Yeah, power clean all day.
Mike, we're gonna let you go on the pod, but if you have just like 2 minutes, please hang out. Want to ask you something behind the scenes that it's super top secret, so the listeners can't hear. Okay.
All right.
Hang out. All right. We appreciate you. Thanks, Mike.
Yeah. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Mike.
Okay. Christian, that was
a lot of good tidbits in that one, folks.
I was on vacation and I thought that I was going to just do this like cute scuba lesson thing. So I'm scuba diving, right? And then I freaking find a pirate ship with treasures everywhere. Like that was that podcast just now. Like I thought I was just going to do some cute little podcast for the 150th time, but no, there was treasure everywhere. Can you believe it?
For sure. I think you're going to need to put like some notes at certain sections.
I know. I'm telling you, I'm going to
right.
have to do like timestamps for this thing so that our listeners can get the full effect of what we just went through. Mike Lombardi.
Definitely a solid combo right there.
I should have known with that epic last name of his. I should have known. Okay, my dude. Anything from you?
That's all I got for today.
Okay, y'all. Christian Harris exiting the building, 6'1", 202 pounds. See you later, bro.
Later.
Work hard, stay humble. All right, there we go. Move Fast, Lift Heavy podcast. Another one in the books. Thanks so much for tuning in. That was a fun one. They're all fun, but that was great. Don't forget, rate, subscribe, leave a comment. If you want to try out Move Fast, Lift Heavy training online, you can just go to movefastliftheavy.com or mflhtrain.com. We'll have those links in the description of this episode. If you're on a podcast platform and you keep hearing all this like YouTube, blah, 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 check us out on YouTube. Christian, every weekend, we're posting a weekly workout that he does from our training program. You can watch and suffer a bit and then give the workout a go yourself. So thanks again for tuning in. I'm Joe Roscoe. We'll see you next time.
My name is Christian Harris. I'm a CrossFit athlete, coach, trainer, and founder of Move Fast Lift Heavy. MFLH has always been more than just apparel. It's a way to train, it's a lifestyle to live, and now we've leveled up that mantra by creating our online training platform. Move Fast Lift Heavy now provides personal online programming. The programming can be done either in a gym, with a garage gym setup, or even from the comfort of your own home with a dumbbell or even at body weight. This isn't just your typical workout block. You'll have unlimited access to our coaching staff to ask questions and submit technique videos. MFLH has always been more than just an apparel line. Now you can be a part of the team. Click the link to get started, and let's get to work.